Indonesia. A total of 13 bodies have now been recovered in the tragic collapse that had taken place at an Islamic school in Indonesia. It's day 4 of the rescue mission, and the crucial 72-hour golden window has now already lapsed. Now, despite intensive efforts, dozens of students remain unaccounted for, with hopes for survivors fading. The Al-Khwarizmi Islamic Boarding School is a century-old institution. It collapsed while construction crews were adding to unauthorized floors, while students had gathered up for a prayer on the first floor. Rescue workers initially searched by hand but have since deployed heavy machinery in order to speed up recovery efforts. But, however, there have been no signs of life. About 105 students have been injured, many with severe head injuries and broken bones, while 55 are still missing under the debris. Shifting focus to the United States of America, we're now learning that the U.S. Supreme Court has stated that it will consider overturning a Hawaii law that imposes strict regulations on where people can carry guns. The Trump administration has urged the justices to take the case, arguing that the law violates the court's 2022 ruling that found that people have a right to carry firearms in public under the Second Amendment. The Hawaii law bans guns on private property unless the owner has specifically allowed them. It also prohibits firearms in places like beaches, parks, bars, and restaurants that serve alcohol. State attorneys have argued that they have already loosened its concealed carry permit regulations to align with the High Court's 2022 ruling. They say its new restrictions strike a reasonable balance between gun rights and public safety as well. With us on the broadcast is Mr. David K. Johnson, American author, professor of criminal justice, law, journalism and political science at Rochester Institute of Technology, joining us from New York. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. The U.S. Supreme Court is at the moment clearly conservative leaning, and in your assessment, what is the likelihood that the court will uphold the gun laws in Hawaii, given the context of its 2022 ruling as well? Is it likely to get overturned?
The U.S. Supreme Court is moving more and more toward the direction that any American anywhere can carry any kind of gun, including an assault rifle capable of firing multiple rounds very quickly. It's important to note that this was not the legal theory under our Constitution until a couple of decades ago, that it's all based on a comma, a grammatically incorrect comma in the Second Amendment, and that the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about guns. It talks about arms. These days, there are nuclear weapons that can be fit into a backpack. Of course, no one is going to allow individuals to have a nuclear weapon. So the real issue before the Supreme Court is there some limit that they will not overturn? For example, I cannot legally buy a howitzer, a military artillery piece, in my property. If somebody decides they want one, what would the Supreme Court do? And I have to tell you, I don't know. That's how radical they are.
Indeed. And so, looking beyond the legal lacunae, what are the implications if this particular law is overturned for the people as such, for Americans on the ground? Because, you know, news is often rife with stories of shootouts taking place quite often in America, and innocent people losing their lives in the streets quite often. School children as well. We've seen numerous shootings take place on campuses.
Well, one of the significant features of the Hawaiian state law has to do with bars. And I think it's reasonable to assume that in the future, if there is unlimited open carry of weapons and unlimited concealed carry of weapons, that sooner or later somebody who is drunk in a bar is going to shoot up people, and we're going to have more violent incidents like this. There's no other country in the world having these shootings with the frequency and commonality we do. They pop up once in a while in various places, but they're rare and unusual events. In America, they happen every week.
Indeed, and sir, a final question on this particular news story. What potential policy shifts might occur, especially at the state level, if the US Supreme Court rules to overturn the law? And could this lead to other states also revising their gun laws or adopting more lenient policies?
Where I live in New York, we have relatively strict gun laws. You've already seen them under assault in the courts. State legislatures are going to be forced to significantly weaken their gun laws. Never mind that in the Old West in America, in the iconic city of the Old West, Dodge City, in the 1800s, everyone had to give their guns over to the sheriff when they were in town. That's the historical precedent for this. But more guns, more gun violence, less controls. That is the clear direction the U.S. is heading, despite the fact that 90% of Americans in polls favor stricter regulation of firearms.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking further